top of the wall sometimes. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Beautiful afternoon, isn't it? It's kind of a shame that we have to come inside at 4 o'clock for this program, but anyway, Gary Heisler is my name, and I'm a resident here at Timbercrest, and I think I probably know all of you, and you probably all know me also. I live in a neighborhood home with my wife. We moved here 8.5 years ago, so it's a great place, Timbercrest. For anyone out there, and might have to turn down the gain a little bit because I'm right by the speaker. Today's program has to do with, well, today's the 20th, but actually what I'm going to be talking about is tomorrow, September the 21st, which is Peace Day. And there's several different ways that that's, I want to say, celebrated So we're going to look at the United Nations and World Council of Churches that will give us some significance to the day, Peace Day, International Peace Day. So we're going to look at 5 different sources here that will give us some history and some information about September 21st and the significance of it. We'll start with the United Nations. And this is a website for the United Nations. The picture here, it says, Peace Bell, donated by the United Nations Association of Japan in 1954. And they say here that they ring this bell twice a year, on the first day of spring and on September 21st to commemorate Peace Day. But UN General Assembly in 1981 passed a resolution declaring an International Day of Peace. In 2001, 20 years later, the General Assembly adopted a new resolution declaring that September 21st is officially each year the International Day of Peace. And the intention of that resolution is to have the entire world observe a day of peace and nonviolence. The UN International Day of Peace on September 21st takes place each year in parallel with the World Council of Churches International Day of Prayer for Peace. The UN Day is a day on which armed conflict is meant to be stilled. I don't know that that's ever actually happened, but anyway. A day for combatants to observe ceasefires, a day on which all people are invited to commit or reaffirm their commitment to nonviolence and the peaceful resolution of disputes. This is a page that's updated for 2023. They do have a theme each year. The United Nations has a theme for the day. And this particular year has to do with something called the Global Goals. And the Global Goals, Sustainable Development of Goals. What does that mean? Well, they have another whole website that talks about their sustainable development goals. Now, this isn't just for Peace Day, but this is some goals that the United Nations has, and so they're emphasizing these goals for tomorrow, September 21st. And there's 17 of these goals: no poverty, zero hunger, Let's see what happened to 3. Whoops. Good health and well-being is number 3. I see they keep, it's an action site here. Yeah, okay. Quality education, gender equality, clean water, sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, okay, we got both covered there, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnerships. Those are the sustainable goals. Sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? Well, no, not exactly. But that's the emphasis for tomorrow's Peace Day from the United Nations. Now, the World Council of Churches, they have a little different name for their day because they have to put the word prayer in there. Prayer for peace, which makes sense for a religious organization to make that slight change. And this is from a World Council of Churches website. I'm not going to read down through there and everything, but the top part of this web page talks about the International Day of Prayer for Peace. And I'll give you a little bit from there. Each year on September 21st, the World Council of Churches calls churches and parishes to observe the International Day of Prayer for Peace. The International Day of Prayer for Peace offers an opportunity for church communities in all places to pray and act together to nurture lasting peace in the hearts of people, their families, communities, and societies. The idea was proposed in 2004, so it's a little bit after those other 2 dates I gave you, 1981 and 2001. During a meeting between World Council of Churches General Secretary, Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobaya, and UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, and coincides with the UN International Day of Peace. So that's 2 organizations that are supporting September 21st as a day of peace. This third one was something that I was not aware of, and it's another United Nations emphasis, International Day of Peace Vigil. It's another website. They talk about what this means, a day of peace vigil. Basically, they have a lot of information here, but in summary, they say that this day of peace vigil is to encourage worldwide 24-hour spiritual observations for peace, nonviolence on the International Day of Peace, September 21st. So it's a 24-hour, that's where the word vigil comes in. In every house of worship and place of spiritual practice by all religious and spiritually based groups and individuals, and by all men, women, and children who seek peace in the world. And I would think, who doesn't seek peace in the world now? I guess maybe having peace as a goal and actually seeking peace are 2 different things. I think probably everyone hopes for peace or wishes for peace, but a lot of people don't really actively pursue peace, as we know, and all the armed conflicts and armies that we have going on all the time. Now, there is another organization that Seniors for Peace here at Timbercrest became more aware of. Veterans for Peace is a long-standing nationwide organization that emphasizes, works towards peace, specifically by veterans of the military. Although I found out, you don't have to actually be a military veteran to be a member of a local chapter of Veterans for Peace. But what the Seniors for Peace group did here during the pandemic, so it was 2 years ago, I would say, we had a Zoom program that we presented with the Evansville chapter of Veterans for Peace. They're a very active chapter, and they have lots of activities, and so we were able to connect with them. I think Jan Rhodes is the one that actually pursued it initially and got things so we could connect with them. And if you still want to see that program, you can go out to the YouTube, Timbercrest YouTube channel, and you can find it under Seniors for Peace. But there were several of the members of the Evansville chapter, 3 or 4 of them, who talked about their experiences and why they have come to be a member of this organization and pursue peace after their military experiences, which of course, I've heard it said, most people who actually serve in the armed forces in a time of conflict understand the devastation, and that waging war doesn't really very often result in peace. But certainly it's a very high price to pay for them individually and wherever the war is taking place. So they have a website, and this is just one page of their website. Now it says down here 2018, so I think they still have this emphasis, but they haven't updated their webpage since then. But they have a very nicely written statement here about why it's important to recognize September 21st as the Day of Peace. And down here at the bottom, I thought I would just read the last sentence here. To that end, referring to international peace, we call upon our members, fellow veterans, supporters, and greater communities to move beyond talk of ending conflict and instead adopt and implement practices that build peace at home and abroad. So I applaud this group, Veterans for Peace, not just for this particular day, but all the other activities. And you can go to their website and see what other things they're working on, programs and projects that they have. Let's see here. Something locally that I was surprised to see was an article by the Urbana correspondent in a week ago today, The Paper, which used to be free and we all got it every week. Now you have to subscribe to it, but I do subscribe to it, and I don't know how many of you do, but they do have this interesting article. And you can go out to their website, thepaperofwabashcounty.com, and find this write-up. International Day of Peace is September 21st. And the weekly correspondent from Urbana is Michael Snell. And every week I try to read the Urbana correspondent's write-up from her. And you might think that's a little strange. I don't read about the other write-ups on there, other than the North Manchester write-up. However, I have a connection with Urbana because I lived in Urbana when I was in grade school. My father was pastor of the St. Peter's Church, which is right on 13 there on the west side of the road. Well, it was. Big brick old church there. and it's gone now. It was demolished several years ago, although I have a twin sister, Mary, and we happened to be on our way to Wabash, or actually we're coming back, just the two of us, and they were in the process of starting to demolish that building. They had taken out some of the stained glass windows already. But we stopped there, and there were the door was open, basically. We walked around in the back, and anyway, we got in, and so we got to walk around in our old church that we remember as children, and it was still, they hadn't really started knocking it down much yet, so that was interesting. And when we lived there, the church, the parsonage is exactly in between the church on the north and the old schoolhouse on the south, which has been demolished long ago. So it was a great place to go to grade school and live during that time, because we just walked across the back of the garden to go to school, and we walked next door to the church to participate in church activities. And in fact, there's some athletic fields were right behind our house, school, athletic fields. So we could watch from our backyard track meets and baseball. They didn't have football or soccer or any of those sports that we have now. And so, in fact, I played Little League baseball, and so I would just walk from my backyard to the field for practices and games and whatnot. So that was very, very convenient. And in fact, the Little League team, they had other schools in Wabash County that we competed against. And so I got to go to Somerset and LaFountain and LeGros and Rowan. And so I kind of learned some of the communities, at least from the Little League diamond was about it for an hour or two, whatever. So one time we even played Chester grade school. That building isn't there anymore, but oh, okay. Now this is a new microphone system, so if I look down like this, it comes through better. So anyway, that's my connection with Urbana. I don't know this gentleman who's writing this as the correspondent now. I did know the previous correspondent, but let's see. He has a very extensive write-up here, so I would encourage you, if you still have this, if you subscribe or you want to look at it. Actually, you can go to this website. Just go to thepaperofwabash.com, and then you'll be able to get to this still, because I was able to get there today again. And let's see this. Yeah, this one even has an audio version. So if you don't want to take the time to read, you can click on that play button over there, and they'll read it to you. But it's interesting here. He talks about the 2023 Global Peace Day theme being the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG. So he was right current with tomorrow's focus. And so it was a very nice article. At the end of the article, I'll just read a sentence or two from the end of his article. He says, "Together, we can help to lead our world towards a greener, more equitable, and secure future for all. There are many ways to participate in Peace Day: education in the arts, social justice and sports, health to the environment, neighborhood issues, and service to others. I invite you to create a public or private activity related to peace and to spread the word about Peace Day. Peace Day is for all humanity's future." Very nice summary of those goals without going into specifics. And so we're doing that right here today. Now, we can't, I've alluded to military violence and wars and whatnot, but we need to kind of mention that at least. I thought I should, but I didn't really think too much about it until I watched 60 Minutes this last Sunday. And they had an interview with President Zelensky from Ukraine. And so I went to that website, and you can actually go out to the 60 Minutes website. This particular website is transcript of the program, just that segment of the 60 Minutes program. And you can listen, or you can watch the whole thing here if you wanted to, if you didn't see that on Sunday night. But then they have the transcript. And we get these other ads that pop up. But this is the actual transcript of the interview. And there are a couple things there that I want to point out that Scott Pelley, who interviewed Zelensky, brought to the interview. And he said that, this is Scott Pelley speaking, U.S. officials tell us that over nearly 600 days, almost 500,000 troops have been killed or wounded, both sides altogether. Part of the cost so far of Vladimir Putin's unprovoked invasion. Now, I'm not exactly sure who keeps those statistics or how they came up with 500,000, 500,000. What his statement implies is that it's just the military casualties. And we know that there have been thousands, tens of thousands of civilians in Ukraine that have perished as a result of this invasion, and also bombing and missiles and things like that. So peace is far off for Ukraine and for the world in general. So I like talking about and thinking about International Day of Peace and prayer for peace and peace vigil. Those are all good things that we all need to be aware of and pursue peace, but it just isn't happening very well in many places. It isn't happening. And in fact, another statement by Scott Pelley in this broadcast says, the United States has contributed about $70 billion, that's with a B, to your war effort. So we might say, oh, that's a terrible thing that's happening over there in Ukraine, which it is, but America's not involved. We don't have any troops over there. We don't have any boots on the ground, like they say. However, $70 billion of our taxpayer money is supporting that war effort. So all of us in this room actually have a part in that by financially, by our government that we pay taxes to, spending that kind of money. So it's a little sobering when we look at that, the current state of the world. Don't mean to end on a downer note here for today, but balances things a little bit, I guess. So let's get this over here again. We're going to end the program today by singing in unison, Let There Be Peace on Earth. And I've asked Delora Roop if she will accompany us. And the words are up here. So get your voices all tuned up here and ready to sing. All right. And then this will be the end of our program for today. Marie?
Before we sing,
Day after tomorrow, Friday afternoon, we're dedicating a peace pole in the healthcare Crestwood Terrace at 2 o'clock. You're all welcome to come.